and because we always start after Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, so it's already Parshas Bereshit is already a little bit behind. So, but I thought we're going to talk a little bit about something to do with creation, and the text that I'm using is actually from Pirkei Avos. It's a Mishnah in the 5th chapter and the 6th Mishnah, and it says, Asar Devarim Nivru Be'erev Shabbos Bein Hashmashos. So 10 things were created on Erev Shabbos at the time Bein Hashmashos, which commonly is translated as twilight. Literally, it means between the suns. And this is the halacha part of the thing. We all know that Shabbos begins on Friday night, but we don't really know the exact moment that Shabbos begins. Only Hashem knows that exact second when Shabbos begins. So our practice, the halacha, is that we begin Shabbos at there's this period of time which is sort of a period of confusion. It could be Shabbos could begin anytime between Shkia, between the setting of the sun, and Seis HaKochavim, the cloud, when the stars come out. But the halacha is, since we don't want any possibility of being violating Shabbos, we begin at the earliest moment, which is Shkia. Okay, and we end Shabbos at the end of it. Before Shkia. Okay, so right. So I mean, there's a lot of discussion about when exactly Shkia starts. I mean, it's actually, if you look at it, it's really a process. It's not something that happens in any instant. But we add on to it because we love Shabbos. We actually do. We started even earlier than Shkia, as Lizzie properly points out. So the things that I'm going to go into in detail, but the things that were created during this time were all miraculous things. You know, we're talking about like Man and Be'er Miriam and Bilam's donkey, and all miraculous things. So the question is, why were they created at this point? So the fact is that this time has. Come sit here. I sit here. Oh, okay. You make yourself comfortable. Okay. This time period it's both chol and it's also kadosh. Since we don't know exactly which moment Shabbos begins, even though we accept Shabbos upon ourselves, it's sort of it has kind of a mixed quality to it. So Hashem chose in that time to continue creating. Right? We know He created for 6 days. Then He stopped, rested on the 7th day, but He chose to continue creating. And what He created were things that were both gashmi, they were physical things, but there were also things that are spiritual in nature. You'll see when I get into the details. So the first thing that it says that was created during Bein Hashmashos, Elohein, Pi Haaretz, Pi, the mouth of the earth. And this is referring to the rebellion of Korach, which was probably the most serious rebellion against Hashem and Moshe Rabbeinu, because if they had been successful, essentially they would have brought doubt to all the words that Moshe Rabbeinu had transmitted to Am Yisrael, but through that Hashem instructed him to transmit, right? And it would have brought into question Torah, mitzvos, many things. So Moshe very publicly asks for Hashem to do something big, and he does. The earth opens up. These people are all swallowed inside of it. The earth closes up. There's not a piece of grass that's off. There's no sign that they existed. There's no sign that they were swallowed up into the earth.
Do you know the prayer that we could say it now through Iran?
Okay, good one. Good one. Okay, so that's the mouth of the earth. Okay, the second thing that it mentions that was created is the Pi HaBe'er. And this is referring to the Be'er, the well that traveled with Am Yisrael for 40 years. Miraculously, it was a rock, actually, and it had an opening. And from that opening, there was a spring that followed Am Yisrael. There was always fresh water. As long as Miriam was alive, there was always water for the Jewish people to drink from. and it was in the schus of Miriam HaNeviah, the sister of Moshe and Aaron. But it also uses the word P, and there are those who say that it was really a mouth, and that this P was not just an opening, it also spoke, and it also sang, and it sang the Shira, and it was commonly just singing the praises of Hashem. You know, a little gurgling, singing, Hashem is good, Hashem is great, you know, sort of like that. Okay, then it says that the next thing that was created was the pi ha'ason, the mouth of the donkey. And this is referring to Bilam's donkey. And the idea, so, you know, now this donkey was not created at this time, right? It would be, otherwise it would be, wasn't created during Bein Hashmashos of the 6th day, between the 6th day and the 7th day. Otherwise it would be a very old donkey. But it was what was created, and in many of these things, what was created was the possibility, was the potential for this donkey to come into existence, to become Bilam's donkey, and to open its mouth and speak exactly at that time. And what we learn from this donkey, and what Bilam was supposed to learn, is that who controls speech, who controls what Bilam is saying, who controls that Bilam either curses the Jewish people or blesses the Jewish people, it's a kadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem controls the ability of a donkey to speak, and he controls the ability of us to speak and us to do many of the natural things that we naturally do.
Can I ask a question? Is that the way that like everyone holds it? It wasn't actually. I always assumed it was created. The donkey was actually physically created, and it was like kind of like on hold on the side, and then he came into the center stage.
I think there are different opinions on this. Like almost every one of these things, there's some discussion about whether they were actually created at this moment, or the potential was created, and it actually brings up questions of. Wait, does that mean if this opening in the ground was created at this time, does that mean Korach for sure was going to sin? You know, it brings up all kinds of questions about you know, the Bechiras Chapshis. So it's not at all.
Does that mean that we don't have, like, that what comes out of our mouth is not our choice? No.
Well,
it's not. Okay, but that's something we have to do.
Right. Right. That's right. Okay. The next thing that was created was the keshet, which we read about this last Shabbos, the rainbow, right? And it was the promise of Hashem that he would never, it was the sign of his promise that he would never bring destruction on the world again by means of a flood. So, you know, this is actually one area where there's a lot of discussion when exactly it was created, Lizzie. There are those who say that because it's only like, you know, water and sunlight, that probably it was created. But the Ramban comes to the conclusion that no, it actually was created at this time when Hashem willed it to be created. And the interesting thing about it is that like we assume the keshet has to go, like the feet are in the land, and then there's this big bow up above. Who says it has to be that way? Why couldn't it have been created in the exact opposite direction?
It actually is in some places in the sky, and go all the way around the sun.
Okay, but for the most part, it's created so that the feet are on the ground, and the Ramban says that is actually a symbol. What would fall?
The buckets of coke that are at the end.
Oh, okay, that's so that's so the Ramban says that actually when archers, when warriors would come in contact with other people, and they wanted to express that they weren't being violent, they had positive, peaceful intentions towards somebody, they would hold their bow by the bow, the rounded part. And which means that they had no capability of putting in an arrow. There was no string there, and they had no way of, firing their bow. So essentially Hashem has done the same thing. He put the bow at the top and the legs at the bottom. He's put it in reverse in the normal way that you hold it to communicate that he has peaceful intentions towards the world. Okay, the next thing that is mentioned is the man. Okay, it's talk about something Gashmi. That's very, very physical. Yet it very clearly has miraculous properties. I mean, but the man, as we all know, it was given to Am Yisrael for 40 years, and during the time that we were in the desert and we were provided for. And it says that this was actually stored by Hashem for till it was created at this time, and it was stored with Hashem. Okay, then just the Keshet Haman. Okay, Hamateh. So this is the staff that Moshe Rabbeinu used when he was doing the Osos and Mofsim. He was doing the wonders and the signs and wonders before Am Yisrael, and also before Paro. It has the Shem of Hashem made out of it was carved into it. Is made out of sapphire, and it actually says that it belonged at first to Adam Arishon. Like, where was it all those years? Adam had it, and he gave it to. I guess he gave it to his son Shais, and then he gave. It was passed down generation after generation or generation. I mean, that's one traveling staff, because that's like a lot of years. But its purpose and its intent was that it should end up in Moshe's hand. And it became an important tool for Moshe to perform the will of Hashem. Okay, this I love. This one is okay. The next one is the shamir. You know what the shamir is? Okay, it's a little worm. It's a little tiny worm. It's the size of a grain. A little piece of grain, and it was used to carve the names of the different tribes into the breastplate that the Kohen Gadol wore. Right? He had in the Choshen there were 12 stones. Each one of them, like here, I got my Choshen right here. Each one of them had the name of one of the tribes. But the pasuk says that the stones have to be shalem. So if you carve out a name, it's no longer shalem, right? So what did they do? They like took some ink and they wrote the names on the stone, and then they put the shamir, what little shamir, and it didn't eat away. It just like sort of miraculously made the space open up. It wasn't eating, it wasn't taking away from the stone. It was just like pushing it to the side, and the names were then engraved in that way. And it was also used to cut the stones at the base of Mikdash. Exactly, right? The house of peace that Hashem was created could not be built with metal, with materials that symbolize war. So how do you cut it? I mean, those are big stones, as we've seen. How do you cut it? And so the peaceful little shamirot, I don't know. They were sent to, okay, go do your job, cut the stones, and that's what they did. And they brought about the construction, or they helped to bring about the construction of the Beis HaMikdash. And it should be soon and in our days. Okay. All right, the next there are three, I'm gonna mention them together. So it says the ksav, the hamichtav, the haluchos. Okay, so the ksav, actually it's the letters, the actual letters. The michtav, that was what was written, okay, and the luchos, what they were written on. Okay, so we know that we've heard this many times, right? That the Torah is the blueprint for the construction of the world. But was there a physical Torah at the time that the world was constructed? It says that for 2,000 years before our world was created, the Torah existed. The letters of the Torah existed. And it says it was black fire on a surface of white fire, and that's how it existed until Bein Hashmashos on the sixth day of creation. At this point,
What's
the
2,000 years before day
creation.
one? And there's no years.
It's a measure of time.
There you go.
Before the creation of time and space, it's a
Okay.
measure of time and space. And if anybody can wrap their head around it, please come tell me how they do
Yeah.
that.
No, because Hashem dies like 1,000 years, like blink and dies. You don't know
Yeah,
what the aliyah
it's a
means.
measure.
It's Hashem time. You don't have.
The point is that it existed in a different form than we know it. And only at this time only at this time of creation was it actually, were the letters actually formed. Okay, they were carved into the luchos. So what was written is the michtav, like that's the word for a letter, right? It's the thing that was written. Okay, and it was all miraculous, right? Like we know that the luchos could be read from some say 4 directions, some say 2 directions. Either way, right? You could read it. And not only that, it was carved. The letters were carved all the way through. So, like, how did the samach stay in place? How did the mem sofit stay in place? It was just like held in air. It was suspended miraculously in air. Okay. Also, we know about the luchos. First of all, that they were made also of sapphire, and they were 6 tefachim. Is it a tefach? Right? 6 tefachim by 6 tefachim by 2 tefachim. It was square. It was a square. But it says that one of the nisim of the luchos was it could be rolled. Now, I'm not sure exactly why they were rolling the luchos, but anyways, the point is that Hashem, like here's principles of nature, right? Hashem can defy any principle. Hashem can, turn upside down any principle of nature. Yes, a square piece of stone can roll. Oh, there you go. Okay, Rivka. Okay, Rivka. Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, yeah.
Why are we so surprised? How does our planet stay in place?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. Exactly.
Nothing else stay in place.
Exactly
We don't
right.
get that either. So-
Exactly right. Okay, so that's the 10 things. That's the 10 things that were created. And then Yesh Omrim. Then there are those who say. Okay, so Yesh Omrim, Av HaMezikin. So also these bad spirits. Nobody really knows what it is. So maybe you've called your kid, oh, he's a little mazik. No, but it's not so nice to say that. But they were destructive spirits. Some say they were the forms of the Sahara. Some say they were the angels that Hashem appointed to deliver, bad news, bad punishments. Like they weren't happy. They didn't have a little happy job in the world. But the thing is that they were without a body. They were only spirits. And it says that Hashem ran out of time before Shabbos. Now, think about this, right? Hashem, that's very good. Lizzie says, before for everybody running around before Shabbos. No, but picture this, Hashem is like, oh, everybody get into the showers, and he's like washing the floor at the last minute, and he's, putting the last thing on the stove. No. Hashem could do anything, obviously, right? But it makes an important point, and that is that the minute Shabbos starts, all malacha stops, right? Hashem was in the middle of a job. If we're in the middle of a job, we stop. Okay, that's the lesson of the
spirits of destructive energies were created.
Right, exactly.
But it left room for one thing that didn't go with that, right?
I don't know. I don't have that much time, so I'm just gonna move on if you don't mind. Okay, we'll talk about that. Okay, the Seder. Okay, then all right, the next thing that it mentions is the Kever Shel Moshe. Okay, so we just read about that not that long ago in Zos HaBracha, right? What?
It's a shell grotto.
Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe. Okay. But we don't know where it is. That's the important.
Where
Okay.
Moshe Rabbeinu was buried?
I think so.
I thought
Hashem
that.
buried
No one knows where Moshe Rabbeinu.
Hashem
Oh.
buried.
No, Hashem buried Moshe Rabbeinu, and people looked for it. The people who looked high thought it was low. The people who looked low thought it was high. Nobody there, and it says it actually disappeared. Hashem put Moshe Rabbeinu in this kever, buried him, mourned, and the thing disappeared. So that it shouldn't become a shrine, so that it shouldn't become a place where people come to daven inappropriate. You know, Moshe was the agent of Hashem, and Hashem is supreme, and that's really the point. Okay, the last thing that's mentioned in this Mishnah is the Elo Shel Avraham, the Isle Shel Avraham, the ram. Okay, so we know that when Avraham Avinu brought Yitzchak up to be sacrificed, right, with full intention to fulfill Hashem's will, it was a great act, and at the last moment Hashem stopped him, and Avraham sees this ram with its horns caught in the bushes. It's conveniently there. Okay, was it there for all these millennia? I don't know. I don't think, or it was willed into existence so that it should be available for this purpose. And Avraham took him and sacrificed him in place of his son. And the Pirkei de Rav Eliezer says that every bit of it, every piece of it was used had some purpose to it. So the ashes were used as the basis for the Mizbeach, right? We know that the Akedah, the binding of Yitzchak, took place on Har Moriah, which is where the Beis HaMikdash was built and will be built again soon. And so the ashes became the basis for the Mizbeach. The sinus were used as the chords, the strings on David's harp. The skin was used as either the garment or the belt of Eliyahu and Navi. The horn, one of its horns, was used at Matan Torah, right? We read that there were the sounding of shofar, right? And where did it come from? It came from this. I mean, it just shows how significant this act of Avraham Avinu was, that all these things that were byproducts, I guess, of his great act. But anyway, so it was used. It was the shofar that was blown to announce the giving of Torah, and the last horn is being saved, and it's going to be used for not announce Mashiach, for the ingathering of the exiles. It's going to be the sound to call all of Am Yisrael back to their place. Okay. Oh, wait, there's one more. Sorry, messed up. One more. Okay, one more, and that is the Tzvat, the Tzvat Asuya. That is the tongs that were made with tongs, right? Like when a smith works, right? Oh my God, look how late it is. Okay, when a smith works, right? He holds a piece of metal with tongs, right? And then he puts it in, it becomes red hot, and then he smashes it, forms it, and makes it into whatever he's trying to make. But where did the first tongs come from? How is it possible how did the first tongs get made? So it says in the Gemara, it could have been. It could have been made out of a mold, with metal was melted and it was poured into a mold, and it was really man-made. But the first explanation is a little nicer, because what it means is that Hashem had a direct hand in the creation of all the kelim that were made for the Mishkan and the base of Mikdash. They were all made out of metal. They all had to be held by tongs. Who made the first tongs that made the second tongs that made?
Wasn't allowed in the Midrash. You said there was.
No, it wasn't allowed. It wasn't allowed to.
The vessel.
Oh, you're not allowed to make vessels with the.
Yes, you are. You're allowed to make metal vessels.
Oh.
It's described in the Torah in great detail. All the metal vessels.
The Shamir made them.
No.
No.
And you're not allowed to cut stone with the
Right.
metal. Can't cut
Right.
stone. with
Stones
the
that
metal.
were used.
The Beit HaMikdash had metal and it had
Oh,
stone.
it had metal. Oh, I thought it
The
was.
metal was
the
the vessels,
the vessel.
the gold that covered the altar, the gold for basins and the shovels.
Anyways, what it means, what it tells us is that the creation of these tongues, it connects Hashem to the work that was done in the Holy Mishkan and Beit Medrash. So the Ramban says that these great miracles show us that Hashem controls the world, right? It becomes very obvious when you see, the sun stop, when you see the Red Sea split, why weren't they created then? Okay, when you see these miraculous things happen, it's very obvious that this is Hashem's greatness. This is very obvious that this is the hand of Hashem. Okay, but that's not what you think when you see the things that are kind of everyday things, right? They're like Hashem created the world so that all these things were kind of a prototype. They were you create a chicken and the chicken has an egg and the egg becomes a chicken and that has egg and then you plant a seed but really, like Shana said, right, is any of those things any more miraculous, any less miraculous? You take a little green thing and you put it in the dirt and then a tree grows up and is that any less miraculous than the things that, the fact that the sun rises every day and that all it is predictable, but it's not necessarily less miraculous. And okay. So the question is asked, like, why were these things made so close to the beginning of Shabbos? Like what? Oh, yeah. Okay. What?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm almost done. Almost. Okay. So the Tiferes Yisrael explains that actually Shabbos is a proclamation of that Hashem created the world, right? It says, we say it in Kiddush every single week, right? Hashem worked, he made the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day we rested. He rested. Okay, and when we accept upon ourselves Shabbos, and when we obey Shabbos and we keep Shabbos, we're saying we acknowledge that Hashem is the master of the world and Hashem created everything, including the shamir, including a tree, including the great things and the little things. They're all part of Hashem's hand. Okay.
For the 2,000 years before creation.